Hello, everyone. How's it hanging? uh, I feel like a lot has happened since we last spoke, at least through video format. And I already shared this with you all on my other social media platforms that I wanted to take some time to really process the events that have taken place before I actually come on here and share my feelings and any reflections that may have come up while I was recovering. It's been a lot on a global level, on a national level, if you're in the United States, on a more personal level. There has been a lot to navigate through. And I'm feeling better now, better enough to actually talk to you all and let you know what I've been feeling and what I've been processing. And today I'm more so going to focus on what happened with Mr. Charlie Kirk and my feelings and impressions about that. Even now I'm talking about, I'm getting a bit overwhelmed by it. But before I couldn't get a word out, and I'm going to explain now that when I first heard the news that something had happened to Charlie, I felt really just shocked. I felt shocked. I felt like, wow, like something that like that actually happened. At the time, I didn't know where the wound was, where he had gotten, the impact. And I was like, okay, he's been rushed to the hospital. But then when I went to go take a shower, I was like, I don't think he made it. I just had a feeling. And for those of you that are sensitive and can perceive energy, at times you can feel that because the life force is flat. That's what I had gotten the sense of. It was like this kind of flat life force. I was like, I don't think he made it. And he died. And I just felt like my heart broke. I was really, upset, I don't think is really the most accurate word. I just felt really just like I was in a whirlwind. My heart it was just in so much pain. And at the time, I was getting ready to cook dinner, and I felt just so distracted. I felt like I couldn't think straight. Good thing I didn't burn anything, but I felt really just out of it. It was a lot for me. It was a lot. And by the time I actually sat down to eat dinner with my husband, I just broke down and started crying. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because I could not believe that something like that could just happen. And, as Americans, we've been through so much stuff. We've been through so much stuff, especially if you're a millennial. We've been through a lot. And when stuff like this happens, I am still in disbelief that what happened actually happened. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I can't believe he's gone. Here's the thing. I didn't particularly like the guy. I didn't. There were a lot of things he said that I did not agree with and that I didn't appreciate, quite frankly. But when he passed away in such a violent manner, I was heartbroken because I felt and still feel like a member of my family had been taken from me. And I told my husband, I feel like I lost someone that I love. And this is because he was family in the way that he was a part of my human family. He was another human being. And that, to me, is significant. Okay? So these are my feelings on this happening. Is that a member of my human family has been taken violently in the country in which I live, and that is a lot for me to deal with. And what I felt too at the time was that with this happening, this is a big deal. Like, this feels like it's really ruptured and fractured something in our consciousness. We've already had several ruptures and fractures, but it feels even more so like basically we've had another fracture. We've had another rupture. So now, with that being said, obviously, there's many different ways that people have chosen to process this. There are people that feel the way that I feel, that are sad, that are upset about it, and then there are people that are not so sad about it, that feel quite numb, feel more so apathy, just like nothing. And then there are some people that feel pretty good about it. And there are many different responses to this, but the main response that I'm seeing from people in response to people feeling good about it is, how dare you celebrate the death of another human being? How dare you feel apathetic? How can you feel this way? This is another human being and you are what's wrong with the world. That's like the main response that I'm seeing. And here's the thing, I don't necessarily feel that these people are wrong, in what they feel, in being upset that other people are not upset. I get that. Because I personally, I already told you how I felt about it. I'm not celebrating, and I don't feel good about it. But here's the thing. Like I said, I don't think they're wrong in how they feel about how other people feel in terms of the emotion. But I don't necessarily agree with the train of thought, and here's why. You know that over the years, and it's been a long time, I've been on this spiritual journey. I have gone through my ups, my downs, my middles, my highs, my lows, and I have learned a lot through that process. And over time, it has become increasingly important for me to be able to allow room and space for people to feel however they want to feel about something. And I feel like it's very important for me to be open to many different perspectives. That doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with those perspectives, but I'm open to accepting that people will feel different ways about different things. And I can't control that. The only thing I can do is be open and accepting to how I feel about something, embrace that fully, and also allow other people to do the same. I do feel that this is important, not just for myself, but for other people to start considering, okay? Because people have this desire for unity. They want people to come together, and I'm going to touch upon this more. I have my notes. People want everyone to just come together and to stop the fighting, stop the hating, stop X, Y, and Z. But in order for us to do that, being open to allowing people to feel how they want to feel is a part of that. And like I said, I understand the perspective of, well, people have lost their humanity. I get that. Because on some level, I kind of feel that way all around. That in order for someone to violently take the life of another, there has to be immense disconnection in order for that to happen. We have to almost like not see that person as an actual person in order for that to happen. And there is also a certain level of disconnection that has to happen in order for one to celebrate the death of another. But for me, what I prefer to do, instead of criticizing people for celebrating or feeling good about the death of somebody else, I implement and apply a sense of curiosity. Why are they feeling that way? Why do they feel a sense of disconnect? Why are they happy that someone got taken in that way? It leaves more room for discussion. And it leaves more room for people to actually express or to feel safe in expressing why they feel a certain way. And when they do, we need to have a sense of openness, obviously, acknowledgement, understanding and empathy as to why. Okay. So if some people are feeling happy about somebody being taken in that way, we could say, well, people are so cold and they're evil and we've lost our humanity. But why? Why are people feeling that way? Why is that happening? We need to open that up and be open to discussing that instead of pushing people away and saying that they're evil and that they're disconnected and X, Y, and Z, whatever the case may be. What I'll say too is that as opposed to seeing people as evil, I actually think the term evil is quite final, if you ask me. I think each person needs to define evil for themselves and what that means. But from what I've observed is that when people use the word evil, they usually don't want to know more about the person. They don't want to know what their origin story is. And even if they hear about it, they don't care. For them, you shouldn't have done it. That's it. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Doesn't matter what the origins are. And I think in these cases, we need to be open to seeing human existence as a complex and nuanced experience. I feel like when we tag someone as being evil, we get rid of that. We halt our curiosity, our sense of discovery into the human experience. I would say it's actually quite rare in my definition of evil, which to me is like evil would kind of be this inherent quality that can't really be remedied. And I'm curious how many other people see evil that way. Evil can also be categorized as something or someone, like an action or a person, that is so disconnected from their personal values and from other people that they do horrendous things. But again, how are we approaching that kind of mental construct? Are we allowing that room for discovery? Are we going to talk about it? Are we going to discuss it and see where those roots are planted in our own society and how we've managed to create somebody like that? Or are we just going to write them off? So this is kind of what I want to get into. This is what I'm curious about. This is what kind of strikes interest in my heart, is trying to really understand how somebody came into that experience where they felt the need to go out and take another life, or why someone may feel happy or apathetic about somebody passing in a violent way. People have a right to not feel bad. And I don't think it's fair to make people feel bad because they don't feel bad. And I know empathy is a hot topic right now, but being able to ask questions and put yourself in someone else's shoes is really important. To be able to understand their perspective. Because here's the thing, regardless of how incapable we might think we are of being violent, of being disconnected, of being cold, we all have that potential as human beings. So we have to ask ourselves, if I were raised in a different environment, if I had a different set of experiences growing up, if I had a different relationship with my parents, if I had different experiences with romantic relationships, if I were violated growing up, could I see myself feeling the way this person feels and going and doing what they did, or feeling the way that they feel and having that sense of disconnection? Because we all have that potential. And I know there are people out there who's like, well, never me. Even if you feel that way, if you truly want this unity that's so frequently spoken of, putting yourself in another person's shoes to try and understand why they feel the way that they feel is what's going to bring you together with them. And I think if we're not willing to do that, we have to start looking at our capacity for empathy and also looking at where our priorities are. Do we want unity as much as we say we want it right now? It doesn't mean that we don't want it, but what are we willing to do to get there? right? So that's the other thing also that I wanted to touch upon is I feel like this happens anytime there's a tragedy of some kind, is that people will say, well, we just need to love each other, and we need to come together, and we need to unify. But what does that look like? What does that process look like? Because I think I'm only making an assumption based on other people's views or perhaps definitions of what this means. A lot of it tends to be service level. It means helping someone with their groceries, helping someone with their stroller up the stairs, saying nice things to someone. It's this idea of love and unity that is actually quite surface level. And if you really think about it, it doesn't work in the long term. Okay? So, and listen, it's a nice start. It's a nice place to start, but we also have to look at progressing beyond that point. So we have to start looking at what would actually work in the long term. And what tends to work in the long term is the stuff that takes a little bit more effort from us, and what takes more awareness, what takes a little bit more just kind of digging. It also takes a little bit longer, time-wise. But if you actually get started, you can actually minimize the time a little bit for how long it takes to get to your destination, your goal. So if we tell people, well, let's just love each other, right? First of all, think about how hard that is to just love somebody that you're just looking at that you don't know. To love someone that you don't agree with. And I mean truly. I don't just mean just feeling good about them. I mean just truly loving somebody. That is a big thing to ask from humanity at this point. I really do feel that. I think that's a big ask, personally, because a lot of people these days have trouble loving themselves. So to ask someone to just love somebody else and that they don't know, that they don't agree with, I don't think that's realistic. So I would actually propose that in order to start going in that direction, we have to start with ourselves. Start loving yourself. Start taking actions in the direction of what would actually benefit you, what actually feels good for you, and what actually is going to help you to progress and feel more embodied, feel more solid as a spiritual human being. So what that means is giving yourself grace and compassion, especially if you have certain feelings. Instead of criticizing yourself and condemning yourself for what you may feel, give yourself a break. Give yourself compassion and understanding for those feelings, instead of thinking about what you're supposed to feel like. That also looks like not going into spaces that don't feel good for you. If something is triggering, if something is difficult, harsh in some way, not forcing yourself into spaces that create those feelings for you. Okay? There's a lot of nuance here that I'm not going to touch upon in this video, but I'm just giving kind of just like the general idea. But yes, so basically putting yourself in a position where you make your well-being a priority. Because think about it, how many of us are doing things that are not accurate for us, that are very not self-loving? We do that all the time. And then we're expected to love somebody else fully and wholeheartedly, and to embrace people that we don't agree with. I don't think that's not realistic. Okay? So if we want more love and understanding in the world, we need to be more loving and understanding with ourselves. Really go within and work to understand on some level who we are, what we feel, what our beliefs are, and really be willing to ask those hard questions. Okay? And if we can invite that and have space for that within ourselves, it's going to be a lot easier for us to see someone we don't agree with and not be as critical or as judgmental. Maybe we don't agree, but it's not going to It may not be as much of a tick as it would be before we did that work. Okay? So, having that love and compassion for yourself first. Let's start there. Right? So another thing I wanted to touch upon too is it's a shame that I feel like since Charlie Kirk's demise that this has really deepened the divide within this country. And I really don't like to speak of people in terms of left or right. I'm kind of getting tired of that, to be honest with you. I think that's very black and white thinking. And I don't think it's fair to put people in categories where, okay, so this side has all these qualities and then this side has all these qualities. I think we need to embrace, again, complexity, nuance, a gray area. Again, if we want unity the way we say we do, we have to ask ourselves if certain assumptions we're making are actually true. We have to start questioning our own beliefs about people. Asking questions in terms of our beliefs about ourselves. Underneath all of this, everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants to have that sense of peace, to be able to just do what they truly want to do without or with minimal interference. To be able to have friends and loved ones around and just to live in a peaceful world. Everyone wants the same thing deep down. But in order for us to get there, we have to be willing to confront things in ourselves that are very uncomfortable. Again, what are our priorities in achieving this unity? And we have to ask ourselves, what's more important right now? Do we want to be unified or do we want to stay separate? Maybe that there's something that serves us in that separateness for now. It's a lot to think about. But I wanted to offer these points because I see what's going on social media and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it's really impressive, like how bad it's gotten. And I really want to encourage people to have that sense of openness and curiosity, to inviting other people's opinions and feelings into not just the conversation, but just into our own personal world, so that we're not so rigid in how we see people and how we see these kinds of situations. Okay? So I hope everyone's holding up okay. It's been tough on many different levels right now. I actually wrote a blog on this. This video is, I feel like I fleshed this topic out a little bit differently than I did in the blog. But I've attached the blog in the description, so if you want to check that out and read it, you can. But I send you all lots of love and comfort in this time. And just know I'm here. I'm here for you, going through my own nonsense. And sending lots of love and gratitude for your presence here with me. Take care.